Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 7, my favorite number of Jordan and Drew, the sports crew. My name is Jordon Lawrenz, joined alongside the one and only Drew Skyberg. Drew, before you introduce yourself, two things we have to let the people know. One, you got yourself a new microphone. And two, in about, give or take 10 minutes, someone else is going to be joining us on the podcast this week.
Yes, I did get a new microphone, Jordan. You are right. It is a Toner 777 microphone. It sounds very great, and I'm excited to no longer use my potato microphone. It's
We're
going to be great.
professional now.
We're going to be a little bit more professional, yes, with this new microphone. And like Jordan mentioned, in 10 minutes, Johnny Timm from Reedsville is going to be on to discuss some draft predictions and really preview the NFL draft with us. And we're really excited to have him on. Like I said, he's just like Jordan. He's an aspiring communications major. He's going to St. Norbert, not like Jordan, but it'll be great to have him on. Super excited, and let's get right into it.
Yeah, so I mean, if for some reason, if you want to skip this early part and just listen to the draft, go to like 10-ish minutes maybe, but we might be wrong. We don't know for sure. But regardless, we've got a few general announcements before we get to our stuff. Summer Sports Spectacular coming soon. We're getting closer to summer. I'm done with school in like 3 weeks. It's crazy. This year flew by. First year of college gone just like that. I wanted to shout out the Manitowoc Bandits real quick. 9-2 win this past Friday over the Cleveland Wildcats. So it was so weird. First of all, in the second or third inning, Cleveland added a 10th batter. So they had 10 batters during the course of the game. I didn't know you could do that. And then in the fifth inning, they changed the game to 7 innings instead of 9. I didn't know you could just change that in the middle of the game, but it was exhibition. Didn't really matter. Bandits get their first big win of the year. Let's see. On June 11th is their next home game. So, I mean, we're quite a ways out. Well, May 23rd, they have games at Municipal, but that's a tournament. Depends how they do the first day. Might be the 23rd. I don't know for sure yet. We'll keep you updated. Follow Mandy Bandits on Twitter for all that good stuff. Blizzard bracket, Drew, it's a mouthful, but we got some very good feedback on that episode, didn't we?
We got some great feedback, like you said, on YouTube. I mean, the bracket that we put out on YouTube looks fantastic. Anchor, we've gotten some good reviews on, and it's a great episode. If you have not listened to it, I highly recommend you listen to us debate with former Dairy Queen employee Zach Roush on which Blizzard's the best.
It's definitely our most laid back episode to date. Tons of fun, just good stuff all around. I put hours of work into that YouTube video to make sure it looks good. Text is a little small, but it has to be to make sure we get the whole bracket up. So that is that. And also yesterday, my UFC 261 recap was released. That was a wild card in front of 15,000 fans. So good to have fans back, and they were in for a treat with that show. So listen to the recap if you haven't already. And we mentioned the YouTube, subscribe to it if you aren't. We're up to 15 5-star reviews on Apple Podcast. Please keep them coming if you haven't. Yeah, Drew, you're surprised. We've gotten a lot of 5-star reviews lately. Keep them coming if you haven't done it already. Subscribe to YouTube, subscribe to Apple Podcast, leave that 5-star review on Apple Podcast, and give a like to our videos on YouTube as well. It really helps out a lot. We're trying to build our brand, and to waste no time. Stat of the week, our new segment. This is the second week running. Before we get to the stat of the week, we have an honorable mention. If ESPN wants to give Jacob deGrom more credit and Corbin Burns, they can. Jacob deGrom has faced 101 batters this season. He has struck out 50 of them. That is just, there's no words to describe how well that man is doing. But Corbin Burns, you want to talk about doing well? In his first 4 starts, sets a record. 40 strikeouts without a single walk. This man is going off in the best way possible. And 1893 is when like those sort of stats started to be recorded. Corbin Burns has the best. I mean, this is Drew. We're going to talk about Brewers in a minute, but this man is just on fire right now.
Yeah, talk about video game numbers. This is like MLB The Show 21, Road to the Show, rookie mode. And you're just like, against every batter, you're going to strike everyone out. And that's what Corbin Burns and Jacob deGrom essentially have done this year. And it's phenomenal to see. It's something I've never seen before.
No, definitely not. And I saw a tweet. It was like someone saying in a game that's been around over 100 years, it's crazy we're getting like all-time records like this. And it's true. Like these boys are doing something special, and it is a treat to watch. We are being gifted, I should say, to start out the year. Let's move gears now. Think you're going to find a theme In this week's edition of On This Day in History, let's waste no time. April 26th is the date today. On this day in 1983, Stanford quarterback John Elway was the first pick by the Baltimore Colts. I found that interesting. On this day in 1992, the University of Washington defensive end Steve Ettman was the first pick by the Indianapolis Colts. So look at that. And on this day in 2003, USC quarterback Carson Palmer was the first pick by the Cincinnati Bengals. Bengals had the first pick last year, obviously, and took the late, great Joe Burrow. Can't wait to see him back this year. On this day in 2008, the University of Michigan took offensive tackle Jake Long in the first pick. That was by the Miami Dolphins. On this day in 2012, listen to this one. Andrew Luck was the first pick by the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts are filling up this board with first-round picks. And this one's my favorite. On this day in 2018, Oklahoma quarterback Baker Mayfield was the first pick by the Cleveland Browns. 4 quarterbacks taken in top 10 selections for the first time in history. That was a stacked quarterback year in 2018. Josh Allen was in that one as well, right?
Yes, he was.
That was stacked. 4 quarterbacks in the top 10 picks. I love me some Baker Mayfield. It's kind of sad I have a shirt of Baker Mayfield, but I don't for Aaron Rodgers. But hey, whatever. Life goes on, right? I'm still a Packer fan for life. I just love Baker Mayfield and that Browns team. They did very well this year. Now it's time from Browns to Brewers. Let's go to our weekly sports talk segment. We're just recapping the Brewers. It's modified. If you guys remember back, episode 2 was our interview with Robert Schimmick. We did a modified format. We didn't do weekly sports talk, but I'm just going to briefly mention the Brewers real quick. There's some big things to talk about and our new segment with our predictions. So let's start with that. Why don't we? Full disclosure, we're recording this on Sunday. The Brewers-Cubs game has not finished yet, but I predicted the Brewers were going to go 2-4. Drew said 3-3. A point is given to whoever is closest to their actual record for the week. Right now, the Brewers are 4-1. So, ladies and gentlemen, Drew Skyberg takes week number 1. I was so wrong. I said they were going to get swept by the Padres. Why don't you tell Avery and Drew what happened in that Padres series if they're living under a rock and weren't aware?
Well, that Padres series was exactly the opposite of Jordan predicted, like he just said. And no Kane, no Yelich, no Wong, no problem, was what I thought happened. Luis Arias, Billy McKinney, Jace Peterson all stepped up. Each had their own game. Tyrone Taylor even hit a bomb. Just guys who you would not expect to step up. I mean, of course, you expected Burns and Woodruff to pitch phenomenal. They did that. But the offense stepped up. Those boys, they hit some bombs. McKinney had 2 home runs in the series. Jace Peterson, there was literally a Jace Peterson day that last Wednesday and that game when he had that home run. He had 2 RBIs. He had a great game. And it was just San Diego. They just got destroyed by the Brewers for those 3 games. And it was quite a sight to see. And I am kind of excited for this Brewer team. They bounced back after that rough series against Pittsburgh. And now looking ahead to next week, we have the schedule and today they start a 3-game series at home against Miami, the Marlins, and
Yelch's former town.
Yep. And hopefully we get Yelich back, which we heard that good news today, or
we'll talk about
Sunday,
that in a second.
Yeah. Good news with the MRI. And Thursday, we begin a 4-game series at home against the LA Dodgers. That is going to be a show. That will be a great series to watch. Luckily, no Thursday off day this week, so we get the full 7-game slate for the week. And
we're also, aren't we on like a 17-day stretch where we're playing? It's something crazy like that.
I'm not sure. I believe it because they got to get these games in.
Yeah, it's a big number where we don't have an off day. I don't remember exactly what it is. I thought it was like 17 days. So we're going to have to take a look at that. Briefly going back to last week, the bullpen didn't allow a single run against the Padres. The Padres put up 3 runs in 3 games. And that was it. This Brewers bullpen dominated. Brewers had an awful loss on Friday, 15-2 to the Cubs. I mean, they're on cloud 9. They just swept the Padres and then they lose by 13 runs. But Saturday, they win 4-3. We don't know what happened Sunday yet, but at the time of recording, they're leading 1-0. So there's that. And then we also did want to mention new players going on the IL. Wong came off the IL. He's been doing great ever since he got back. But two pitchers, Brett Anderson and Josh Lindblom, both going on the 10-day IL. Anderson has a strained right hamstring, and Lindblom has a right knee effusion. Do you know what an effusion is? Because I don't.
Yeah, so it's something with his right knee. He has extra like fluid in his knee, and hopefully that gets taken care of. I saw that on Twitter, so I
Okay.
don't think Twitter lies to me, but
Twitter's
they
an
always
interesting
could.
place.
Yeah,
I mean, that doesn't sound like it's too bad to get fixed up, but we'll have to see. Only time will tell. Lindblom and Anderson, those are the two that are at fault for that terrible loss on Thursday. But yeah, Yelich MRI came back. No news is good news. So it looks like he's going to be going pretty soon. We'll get him back, hopefully, at least for the Dodgers series. We get Yelich back. But are you ready to predict this week what we think these kids are going to do?
yeah, I'm ready. I'm gonna make my prediction first. I'm gonna say they go 5-2 this week. I'm gonna say
Wow.
let's listen to this. They're gonna sweep the Marlins, and then they're gonna split a 4-game against the Dodgers.
Okay. That is, wow. That is an interesting call. You're going 5-2.
I'm
So
bold.
I mean, we can't really pick the same scores because otherwise that defeats the purpose of seeing who does better. So I'll go 4-3. I think that's fair. I think a Marlins sweep is likely, but we'll say they drop one to the Marlins and then they split it with the Dodgers. So we'll go with that. So you're saying 5-2. I'll add this to my spreadsheet here. 5-2, bold pick. I went bold the other way last week and it didn't pay off. So 5-2 for Drew, 4-3 for me. Let's see how that pays off. And our last thing we wanted to mention real quick, D. Gordon gets signed to a minor league contract for the Brewers. This kind of came out of nowhere, but with the Arcia trade, we need a little more depth. So thoughts on this, D. Gordon? D. Strange Gordon.
Yeah, there you go. As we all know, he changed his name from D. Gordon to D. Strange Gordon in the offseason. I mean,
Yikes.
really nobody knows that, but yeah, I think it's a great signing. I think, like you mentioned, with the whole depth department now with the Arcia trade, I think having another guy there other than Daniel Robertson, and maybe in case if those guys go in the IL, you got D. Strange Gordon to step in now for Luis Arias or Daniel Robinson. So I think, hey, good signing. He can play short. He can play second. So
Yeah,
I'm
it's
all
not
for it.
awful. It's all about the depth at this rate. And he, like as we said, it's minor league. So if he's doing terrible down there, obviously you're never going to bring him up. So that's that. Quick standings recap, not fully up to date, but the Brewers are leading. They're 12-8 as of this recording. Cubs and Cardinals both 10-10. Pirates 10-11. Reds are 9-11. They were 2-8 in their last 10. They were first last week. And they go from first to worst just like that. It's crazy how fast things can change in the game of baseball. And it's basically all we got. We're just mentioning the Brewers. And now it's time for our interview with the one and only Jonathan Timm. Episode 7 resumes as our special guest is back, ladies and gentlemen. This man is going to St. Norbert College, the future voice of St. Norbert, ? Around there. He is our draft expert. This is Johnny Timm. Mr. Timm, Johnny, how you doing today?
Doing great, Jordan. How about yourself?
Oh, man, we're doing fantastic. We just recorded the first part of this. Now we're set for our interview. You're our second interview on like the main episode. So, I mean, that's good for something. You are our draft expert, we are calling you as we get going here. And we'll have trivia at the end of this. That's our specialty. Can't wait to get to that. But first, I wanted to read you this article I found. See if you can make any sense of this. So last year, we know the draft, it was all virtual, things like that. For those who aren't familiar, the war rooms, that's like the term for everyone when they were like in their big offices, whatever, all the coaches, staff, all that sort of thing. So it says teams with all fully vaccinated people are limited to 10 people in the draft room, whereas teams with non-vaccinated people can have 20. Johnny, can you make any sense of why that would be?
I feel like the vaccination, especially with the big media world, I feel like it just brings a sense of comfort to people. What'd you say? They're limited to 20 people if not
No,
vaccinated.
the
and
vaccinated people have 10, but non-vaccinated can have 20. Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
For sure. No, I honestly think it'd be the other way around.
Yeah,
no
that's
limit
what
at
we
all.
were talking about before. I don't understand.
I'm honestly, I'm sorry. I can't make any sense of that.
Exactly. We couldn't either. So I don't blame you for that. I just was very confused unless two articles said it wrong, but that's what I said. So moving on, it's time for the draft. Jacksonville Jaguars have the number 1 pick. I think it's It's basically a lock. Can you confirm? I mean, you can't confirm, but you think they're going to be taking Trevor Lawrence?
I do, and I feel like for a franchise like Jacksonville, if you guys didn't know, Trevor Lawrence is actually from Jacksonville, and especially with the new coach Urban Meyer, I feel like Urban Meyer coming out of college football, knowing Trevor Lawrence very well, I feel like he'll make great do. And then Jacksonville, another team hopping on the dual threat quarterback. And
Yeah, Urban Meyer at Jacksonville. It's going to be very interesting. I'm curious to see how he does. College coach finally moving up to Jacksonville. Can't wait to see how he does there. Other quarterbacks, Zach Wilson, he's projected to go second in some of these mock drafts. You got Mac Jones and then Justin Fields as well. Where do you think these quarterbacks are going to end up? Because, I mean, we got some good quarterbacks here in the draft this year.
yeah, a guy who has my eyes, like you mentioned, Zach Wilson out of BYU. I honestly cannot say I watched much of him in college, but he's just been continuing to climb up the list of top projected players all the way up to number 2, and that's probably as far as he'll get. But I'm looking at this who has the second pick, and it's New York, the Jets, Sam Darnold gone, and I honestly feel like Zach Wilson has that starting QB spot all over it if given New York Jets do decide to draft him. And another quarterback, Justin Fields. Obviously, he was a really good quarterback in college, but he's another dual threat guy. Very, very, very impressive performance against Clemson, knocking off Trevor Lawrence himself in the college football playoff this year. I mean, we all didn't expect him to perform that way, especially the words we got out of Clemson coaches Dabo Swinney's mouth, saying that I know I heard that laugh. I know you remember it.
Oh yeah.
Saying what kind of world are we living in? How Ohio State was supposedly not deserving of that playoff spot because of the Big Ten circumstance, but Justin Fields proved the entire nation wrong, and honestly, that game got him as far as he could in the picks this year for the draft.
I was going to ask you about that real quick. College football this year, it was weird how like conferences started later and stuff. How do you think the season went out? Because it was so weird how Big Ten started like months later, and then Ohio State, like you said, they ended up going to the playoffs even though they hadn't played as many games and stuff. It was a weird season.
It was, and being a big college football fan, I'm just glad that we were very fortunate to have a season to watch some games, especially the anticipation of waiting on the Badgers being the Big Ten doing what they were doing. And I mean, Pac-12 made the decision not to start till November. SEC we knew was going to start because there's probably over 60% of their revenue all in football. And not sure if you guys keep up with football right now, but FCS is actually still currently in their playoffs. So
yeah, I saw there were some teams playing like the scores were going on ESPN, and I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah, I was confused too. I saw stuff on ESPN, and I'm like, what's going on here? It's spring.
Yeah, I was lost. Packers, why don't we talk about them next? Moving on here. They've got 10 picks in the draft this year, but 29th overall pick in the first round. Then they got a second round, a third round, 2 fourths, 2 fifths, 2 sixths in the 7th. Any chance either of you think Packers are going to move up, try and trade up in the draft?
I'll go first here on this. I think there's certainly a chance they move up. Maybe they move up to like early 20s, 20, 21, 22. Maybe if they see someone they want, I think they're definitely gonna move up. Maybe trade like a third or a fourth rounder to move up. But there's also, I think, a chance that they move down. I think if there's nobody they really want, I think there's a chance they trade that pick. They trade that 29th overall pick for more draft capital, maybe for the future, maybe for later in the draft. But I think there's certainly a chance that happens.
I mean, they've got 2 fourths, 2 fifths, 2 sixths. So they like trading down once in a while. It always happens where they get those other picks. But I agree with what you said. If they get anywhere trading, it's not going to be like the 10th pick in the draft. They're not going to move up really high. And they quite honestly don't have any reason to. The thing that we're thinking is we should draft a wide receiver. But as both of you know, that never happens, and we never end up getting a receiver. So what do you think is likely to land with us in our pick for the first round, if we do even keep that pick?
To be honest, your team needs Aaron. Aaron Rodgers, obviously, he can make anything happen with anybody. I mean, we saw the emerge of Marquez Valdes-Scantling last year. Al Nazar had a pretty successful year as well. And those are guys you never heard of. So, I mean, watching that last NFC Championship game, Rodgers just get hit one play after the next. And Corey Linsley's gone now, so definitely a position they need to look into upping in the depth chart.
Rodgers does a great job of turning nobodies into somebodies. He's done that his entire career, all these guys we've never heard of. And the draft last year, for everyone they've drafted, the only player to get snaps was A.J. Dillon, and he was drafted in the second round. And that's just insane to me that they're drafting all these players, but it's like they're stocking up on them almost. They're just keeping around, seeing what they want to do with them, and eventually they get their playing time. But they've got Aaron Jones back, and obviously they've got Dillon. Jamal Williams is gone now, so that's interesting. I don't think they'll be taking a running back unless it's later in the draft. But Drew, I know there's a name you said you wanted to enlighten me on. Fill me in. Who you got?
Well, yeah, so it leads perfectly into what Johnny was talking about with the whole idea that, hey, we need no linemen. He talked about the NFC Championship game. Horrible performance by the offensive line. And there's someone who I think who can step in with Linsley's departure, Quinn Miners of University of Wisconsin-Whitewater. I think he's going to go in the second or third round. Other mock drafts agree with me on this. He's an absolute unit. ESPN always shows videos of him just like destroying people. In the college game, he had an impressive performance, and there's highlights of his offensive line performance. There's a chance he could even play center potentially, so he could potentially even be the replacement right away.
Yeah, we can use that.
Yeah, Johnny, have you ever heard of Quinn Miners from Whitewater?
I haven't.
See, no one has heard of him.
Yeah, he is my sleeper guy in this draft, and a few other my guys at Valders know about him, and he's an absolute unit. We love him. I hope they draft him personally in the second or third round. I mean, the second round might be a stretch, might be a little too early, but hey, if he's still there in the third round, I think you take him.
Yeah, why not? And mentioning Wisconsin, that's the last thing I wanted to talk about. Is there anyone like big from Wisconsin in the draft this year? I mean, do they have any real big guys that are going from college to the pro level that anyone should keep an eye on?
I'm going to be honest. According to CBS Sports, in CBS Sports' mock draft, they have one guy. Wisconsin has one guy going and like projected to get drafted through the draft.
Yeah,
I mean like not undrafted or anything.
Yeah, I didn't think they had any big names coming into the draft this year, so that's very interesting. So there must have been an earthquake at the Timm household. I'm not sure. Technology issues. Drew and I, we're going to make the most of it. So that ended our guest with our Johnny Timm. A little early, guest is over, but no trivia at the end of this week. It's just the way things worked out. It didn't go very well, but we did the best we could, and we got some good bit out of Johnny Timm. We got what we could, and we need a back check now. We need to talk about these Green Bay Packers. Drew, we barely scratched the surface with this team. We were talking about it. They've got the 29th overall pick. Let's give the people a few options. I mean, obviously, we lean towards wide receiver, or you mentioned the guy from Whitewater as well, but who else are we thinking? What are we thinking for the Packers in the first round, pending they don't trade?
Okay, yeah, pending they don't trade, I'm thinking with new defensive coordinator Joe Barry, I'm thinking they're going to go defense. And shocker, they're not going to go receiver first round. We know the Packers.
Shocker.
Why would they? That'd make way too much sense.
Yeah, why would we pick the thing we need?
I'm thinking a defensive. They could go anyway with this, really. They could go defensive tackle. They could go a corner. They could go a linebacker, because
corner would not be a bad idea.
Corner would not be a bad idea with kind of Josh Jackson, the downfall of him, and then also the Kevin King re-signing, which is like, hey, we got depth, but it's kind of Kevin King, which King. Everyone remembers last year's NFC Championship game, which was
that's my tweet.
Brutal.
Kevin King 14, Packers 0.
80 like tweet by Jordon Lawrenz. Yes,
it's my pinned tweet.
Yeah, so I'm thinking here we could go with Joe Barry, I don't know if you knew this, Jordan. He actually is a linebacker specialist. So with a guy like that, you would expect he would kind of influence in the first round pick.
Okay, and I
So
was
one
going to say
guy,
they might cater to him as well because him being new defensive coordinator, they want to be like, okay, what you want, I think we'll give it to you. You know, build that confidence up to him and be like, hey, this was a good hire. See how the man does. That's his first real test is the draft.
yeah. So the guy I'm gonna go with here is Zaven Collins, linebacker out of Tulsa. I say there is a chance they draft this guy first round, and he's, I mean, he's possible. I mean,
I
some
found
draft
him here
boards I saw.
26th in this rankings I see. Number 26. So
Oh,
that falls like kind of right in place.
I've seen Collins go to the Packers in a few mock drafts. Not all of them. I saw one which brings up another scenario I want to mention where it's the trade up scenario where they trade up to the 22nd, 23rd
Mhm.
overall pick. And then when they do that, they get Greg Newsome II, cornerback out of Northwestern.
Oh,
Know
he's
that.
actually under Collins in this one. He's number 30.
Oh wow. Yeah, I've seen him early 20s in almost every single mock draft. I think he's gonna go early 20s. So I think if they're gonna want to draft him, they're gonna have to trade up. But hey, if he falls to 30, and if he's still there at 29, I personally would go Newsome over Collins. But again, like you said, we might cater to Joe Barry. So it's more than likely they go linebacker if they would go defense. But what we were talking about with Johnny, the whole offensive line situation, I think that's an issue you address later in the draft. I don't think they're gonna go first round on that. I think
Nor
if
should they.
yeah, no, yeah, exactly. And I think also the receiver, you like we were talking about, Rogers makes nobodies into somebodies.
Mhm.
I think if they can get a guy third or fourth round, I mean,
Yep.
hey, why
That's what I'm
not?
thinking. Or even if they get two, like say they get one third round and then like a late sixth rounder. Like if they do something like that, if unless they've got other things to worry about on their mind, but I think Rodgers is going to be just fine. It's not like we need a top name wide receiver. And with a pick so late in the first round, you're not going to get that anyways. It's not like we're taking a receiver first 10 picks who is a standout in college, and we never get anyone like that. So it's really just all about trading either our pick to move around a little bit or trading in the offseason, signing free agents. It's one of those things where we got to figure out what our priorities are. And that's why the draft is so interesting. All these mock drafts are different for the most part. Like usually 1 through 5 is around the same, basically. But then once you get down there, I love just seeing the diversity, how different these things are. Even these rankings. I mean, everyone looks at things differently. And that's why we just have to wait for the draft, figure out what the Packers do, who they pick when, and figure out what their priorities are, if they even know what their priorities are, because sometimes it's really up in the air. Taking Jordan Love first round last year, that's obviously been something they planned on. That was their priority. But to the fans, totally different. It's just one of those things where you're looking at office perspective compared to fans. Anything else for the Packers?
I think you just nailed it there. Let's go talk about your DraftKings.
Yes. So instead of trivia, we switched gears. So we made it something different here. DraftKings has a free pool for the first round of the draft. We can win our share drew of $50,000. It's always so misleading when they say that, though, because if I look at the payouts, I'll look later. But usually here, pay table and rules. So if we would finish first somehow, we win $1,000. They're so tricky when they do this. They say you win your share of $50,000. First gets 1,000. Second gets 500, third through 10th gets 100, 11th through 30th gets 50, 31st through 675th gets 25, and then it just goes down. If we finish 4,176 to 9,750, we win $1. So I mean,
Go.
we're gonna see how we do here. This is just for the first round, 10 questions. Full disclosure, trivia. We tried to record it. It didn't end up well. So we're just gonna do this. This is gonna be fun. Something new, something interesting, and why is it's yelling at me? There's also a one for the second round that you could do. It says, well, I don't know if it's for the second round, it's just for the second day. They have free 10K NFL draft day 2 pool, and then they have a free day 3 pool as well. So they've got it all, but we're just focusing on day 1, which is the first round. Who will be the second overall pick? Zach Wilson from BYU seems to stand out as the front runner.
Yeah, I'm with you, Zach Wilson. Let's go.
Who will be the third overall pick? This is interesting. Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, Jamar Chase, Justin Fields, or Mac Jones. I mean, some people might think they go Lawrence, Wilson, Fields. Some people might think Lawrence, Jones, Wilson. I mean, things are all over the place. This is an interesting third pick. And I think we were kind of leaning towards any other player.
I'm gonna change it up here and take back
Okay.
what we did there. And we're talking about the San Francisco 49ers.
Mhm.
They're gonna want a quarterback. I don't think they're gonna settle with Jimmy G anymore.
No.
I think it's time to move on. I'm gonna go Fields.
Okay, we'll go Justin Fields for the third overall pick. Now who'll be the fourth? So it's same options minus one. Zach Wilson, Justin Fields, Jamar Chase, Trey Lance, Penei Sewell, or any other player. And I know I'm butchering that name. There's no way I'm saying that right.
I'm gonna say any other player because we're still missing Kyle Pitts here.
Yep.
We
There's
gotta
some other
talk about
guys that are high in this draft, and DraftKings, they like to throw all the same names at you because it's all up to you what you're thinking. Fifth overall pick, same thing. Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, Jamar Chase, Justin Fields, Penei Sewell, or any other player. We are thinking our boy Peniel here, right? Fifth pick.
Yeah. We talked about with Joe Burrow. With Joe Burrow and his injury, I think it makes sense to get him a better offensive line to what he had last year, which was like next to nothing. So I'm gonna say we take Sewell here.
Yeah, that's the reason he went down is because he had nobody. So they certainly could use someone here. Interesting one here, but I think we got it pretty locked down. Who will be the first wide receiver drafted? Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle, Devontae Smith, or any other player? And it says / no wide receivers drafted in the first round. Can you imagine that if there was no one? But we're going Devontae Smith.
Yeah, I think it's close between Chase and Smith, but to what Smith did in college, I think you got to go Smith here.
Yeah, I think Smith is a pretty safe bet to be this, but you never know. I mean, things change all the time, and it depends. Smith from Alabama, obviously 6'1", 175. He was a senior, so he played all throughout. Next up, who will be the first running back drafted? Najee Harris, Travis Etienne, or any other player / no running backs drafted in the first round?
It's possible Najee Harris falls into the second round here. So
maybe
we have to take that into account. But otherwise, I think Najee Harris would be, if there would be a running back draft in the first round, we would say it would be Najee Harris.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's safer. I think it's safe to say he'll go somewhere in the first, whether it's somehow high, like 12 or something, which would be random. But I think he could be a nice late little sleeper pick in the first round. I don't think he makes it to the second. So we'll go Najee Harris. But that one, interesting. 4 more here to go before we wrap things up. This one's tricky. Who will be the first defensive player drafted? Caleb Farley, Patrick Sutton II, Kwity Paye is his name, Micah Parsons, Gregory Rousseau, or any other player. Defensive guys. I'm not all too familiar with these.
Did you say Patrick Surtain II?
I did.
I'm going to go, not him. I just wanted to hear if you said him. It's either going to be him or Micah Parsons here, I think. And I'm going to say we're going to go linebacker Micah Parsons here. Out of Penn State.
We'll pick Micah Parsons, the old Big Ten guy. Which of the listed players will be selected first? So they're trying to get some out of us here. Trevor Lawrence not included. Mac Jones, Trey Lance, or Justin Fields? Who's going to be picked first? So comes down to the question: Is Justin Fields going to go over Mac Jones, or is Mac Jones going to surprise us and go before? I don't know. I'm thinking Fields.
I like your Fields pick here. I like
It's tough. I see what they did there, and that is tricky. So we're going to go Justin Fields. We agreed for this next one. It says, how many quarterbacks will be drafted in the first round? I think we're going the under. I think we're going to I should say it's over under 5.5. I think we're going to go under and say 5 are drafted in round 1.
We'll go exactly 5 like you said. Sounds good.
So that is the under. And now, final question. Total number of 2021 first round picks traded after 8 p.m. Eastern time on 4/29, which is the draft day. Over or under 6.5? That's a lot.
Well, if teams like the Packers are really trade happy this year, it's certainly possible the over is hit.
So you're leaning over 7 first round picks traded?
That's a lot.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh, let's go under. Because that's way too many. But
I can see like 5 maybe, but not 7. 7 really seems like a lot. So that's all set. Next week, we'll give a little draft recap and we'll figure it all out how we did on the DraftKings pool. Maybe we won some money. even though we won't actually win money, it just goes into my account. It's a free account. I'm not betting money out here. That's crazy. Why would I do that? So anything else? Are we all done with the draft? I think we kind of covered a good portion of the stuff for the first round.
Yeah, we capped out about a lot of great picks that the Packers could make. A lot of guys, we got some sleeper guys we threw out there. I think we did a good job. We'll talk about our recap episode, or we're gonna do a draft recap next Monday, which will be great to hear. I think that's all I got.
Yeah. Apologies about the John and Tim interview. We tried our best. We got what we could, and then we aren't trying to give you some terrible audio and stuff. So we just put in what we could, and we went with that. So we managed. We made it through. That wraps up episode 7 of Jordan and Drew, the Sports Crew, the perfect podcast for you.